Hi everyone, welcome back to PrettyWell. In this video, I'm going to talk to you about my own health practices. So I had a very sweet patient last week check in with me about wanting me to share some of my own health practices on the PrettyWell channel for you all. And some of you guys have asked previously about my practices, Dr. Patti's practices, and so I'm going to share what I do with you to take care of myself and keep myself in good health, but with the caveat that each of our bodies are individual and unique. And there's many things that I have done over the years to test my own body and figure out what works for me. And so I'm encouraging you guys to do the same. I'm going to share with you what I do in terms of some general principles, and you'll hear some of the specifics I do, but you guys work with your own naturopathic doctors, integrative doctors, your healthcare teams, test things out on yourself. And if there's things that you have learned that work wonderfully well for you, please share those things here with us all so we can all learn from one another. All right, here we go. So health is, a composite of a bunch of things. And I feel like, a lot of the times we get really focused in on like, what vitamins do you take? Or, these really specific things. And even though taking certain high quality supplements can be a very helpful part of a healthcare routine, for me, I actually kind of put that closer to the bottom. Not that we don't factor it in and not that we don't do it regularly, but you can't make up for unhealthy lifestyle practices with a bunch of supplements. So I'm gonna kind of take you through the big picture of my life, and then we'll learn from one another. All right, so first things first, one of the most important things I have learned in my body over the years is making sure I get adequate rest and sleep. And believe it or not, this is actually one of the most challenging areas for me. I definitely have patterns that make me feel like it's more important to take care of all of my to-do lists, whatever other people might need help with, before it's time to go to bed, before it's time to end the day. And so, there's always more to do. The lists are eternal, and I can get very antsy when it's the end of the day and we're running out of hours, and it looks like I'm not going to get things done on my list that I wanted to get done for the day. And so it's actually very hard for me. It's not difficult for me to fall asleep. It is difficult for me to make the decision that it's okay to now go to bed. And so some of you may have similar struggles. And what I'm going to tell you is, from a total health perspective, I have really learned over the years that making sure that I get adequate sleep is one of the most important things I can do for my mood the next day, for my brain function the next day, and in terms of my getting everything else done that I want to get done. And that includes other health goals, things like making sure I get adequate exercise, making sure I eat well. I don't do those things as well when I'm underslept and under-rested. And so, I loved years ago when Arianna Huffington wrote her book Thrive and shared that with the world. I was all about that, because it's actually really nice when, very professional people in the world are encouraging us to go to sleep and get rest. And so I'm saying it again here for you guys as well, because for myself, this is one of the areas that I have struggled with the most in terms of taking good care of my body. And good sleep, good quality sleep, adequate number of sleep hours is really important. So I try to get at least 7 to 8 hours of sleep a night. I do much better with 8, but at least 7, like kind of cutting that off as a bare minimum. There are plenty of times when I don't get that amount, but just letting you know that that is definitely my goal for myself in the sleep arena. Okay, the next thing I'm going to bring to the top of the list is regular movement. This is an area that I think most of us in the Western professional world really struggle with. A lot of us have desk jobs. A lot of us have a long commute every day to and from work. And so there's just a lot of sitting that goes on with adulting in our US lifestyles for some reason, many reasons. But so we really have to be mindful and conscious to make sure to prioritize regular movement. And exercise is another one of those things for me anyways, where it feels like a luxury even though it's not. And so, for years it has been a struggle of mine where I feel like I need to get all of the other things done first and then find time for exercise. And for myself, if I do that sort of thing, exercise doesn't tend to happen. And so we also have to figure out how to talk about exercise, because some of us hear the word exercise and it sounds like a chore, and we start cringing and we don't want to do it. And so we have to associate healthy practices with things that bring us joy, or else we're not going to be able to maintain things in a way that's sustainable and long-term. We can only kind of push through with willpower for so long. There are some of you out there who I know who have tremendous discipline and can, muscle your way through things for years and years. But most of us, if we're not enjoying an activity, it's really hard for us to add that in on top of all of the rest of our responsibilities. And so if there's a way to couple exercise / daily movement with something that really brings you joy, that is really going to help bring a successful outcome. And so for me, being outside in nature is really soothing to me. One of the things that just lights up my heart, unlike anything else, is being with flowers and being with the trees. And so if I get to go outside and have a daily walk for an hour in my beautiful neighborhood, even outside work, that is wonderful for me. I also really love going to mat Pilates class. I love going to yoga classes of different kind. I'm actually extremely uncoordinated and, kind of goofy. And I make mistakes a lot when I take classes, but it kind of cracks me up. Like, I don't take myself so seriously. And so for me, it's a focused hour where I do a lot of movement that really keeps my body strong and toned and healthy. It goes by very quickly and I'm entertained in the process. I have learned for myself that taking exercise classes at the end of the day is not a good idea. I'm too tired at the end of the day. In the very beginning of the day, for myself, I'm not awake. I'm not a morning person. And so it took me years to figure out that the best time of day for me to schedule in movement, as in classes, is around the 11 o'clock hour. So 10, 11 o'clock, something like that, where it's not too early. So it's kind of a break in most of people's days. It depends on how you schedule your day. But what I'm trying to say is, I think it's really hard for us to kind of go against the grain of conventional expectations around when it's okay to exercise. Some of us feel like, oh, it can't be during work hours, it can't be, this and that. And what I'm saying is to get flexible. Consider getting flexible and pushing yourself to the front of the line and figuring out where things make sense for you. For me, first thing in the morning doesn't work. Late at night, I tend to skip it because I'm too tired. And so a midday point is really good for me in terms of exercise classes. And then I often will take a walk if I get home and it's not too late. But so figuring out what works for you and having a joy practice that goes along with movement. So it just lights you up and you're willing to do it. And then you feel so much better after you do it most of the time. Most of us feel really good after we exercise or just move to a certain degree. It doesn't have to be pushing ourselves really hard, that then we're really motivated to do it again and some more. So thinking about how we get in regular daily movement. For me, meditation makes a big difference, and in small stretches. I get very antsy very often about feeling like I don't have enough time to get all the stuff done that I need to do. And so if I can do a regular daily practice of a 10-minute meditation, sometimes even 5 if I'm feeling really stressed. But what'll usually happen is I set the chimer tone on my cell phone, and if I'm actually really stressed at the end of the 5 or 10 minutes, whatever I have set, I actually feel so much better that I want to do another 5 or 10 minutes. And so having a daily practice, a discipline where first thing in the morning for me is the easiest to get meditation in, because it's before the day gets hairy and it's before I forget. If I'm having a hard day, if I'm feeling really bad, if I'm feeling spun out, or my mind is looping in some way where I can just tell I'm off kilter, I will try and do a second or third 10-minute meditation. And it goes by really quickly. And for me, it's really resetting. And if meditation doesn't resonate for you, find other ways of dealing with stress, slowing yourself down, quieting yourself a little bit. Different tools are helpful for each of us. Some people really like breathing exercises. Some people like taking a short little walk or a little break, drinking some water, but just figuring out how we reset. I do like the concept of having a morning meditation process because it kind of sets the tone for the rest of the day. I find it a tool that helps me remember that I am connected to everything I love. I don't know if some of you guys know Thich Nhat Hanh's work, but the concept of interbeing, that we inter-are. And so it just kind of reminds me of my connection with everything, with Source, with everyone here. And so that's a wonderful way for me to start the day. And so I invite you guys who have not yet explored meditation to see if it's a helpful tool for you. And for those of you who know that it is a helpful tool, but it's hard to keep a regular practice, to see if you can reintegrate a daily practice, even if it's short, even if it's just 5 minutes, but that there's a regular time per day that you sit and just get quiet and sit with yourself. So what else? I think diet is another place that is just key and foundational for maintaining a healthy body. So this is another question. Everybody's always like, what is the best diet? And the best diet is the one that's right for each of us. Each of us have different genetics. We have different health goals. So it really is going to take some playing around to figure out what the best diet is for each of you. For myself, I have figured out over the years that some fusion of essentially what a Whole30 diet or a paleo diet would be. A fusion of those works really well for me. And so first and foremost, organic food. I don't like the idea of loading my body up with extra herbicides and pesticides. I really feel best when I have lots and lots of fresh produce in my vegetables, so lots and lots of green veggies. I do really like fruit, and I do all right when I have fruit. I try to be mindful to have lower glycemic fruit, but I do tolerate quite a bit of fruit without too many health consequences. My blood sugar stays really stable and even on testing, and so I don't shy away from fruit, but I know it's a debate. We all have different body types, and not all of us will tolerate a lot of fruit. So I have lots of fresh organic produce in my diet. I do need quite a bit of protein and healthy fat in my diet as well. I will start to get kind of that hangry, reactive, hypoglycemic feeling if I don't keep some protein and some fat in my diet. Usually I do some kind of snacking or having some kind of protein, fat-rich meal every 4 hours, particularly on days where I'm working and I need to use my brain a lot and I need to concentrate, just really making sure I've got good fuel for my brain. If I have a lot of just vegetables or just fruit, what happens is, for me, my thinking gets a little bit more diffuse. It's harder for me to feel grounded and to focus in. And so a typical breakfast for myself is usually a smoothie. It depends, whether it's too cold or too hot. I don't use ice in my smoothies. I tend to use room temp water or even hot water just to warm things up a bit. I put a lot of fiber in my smoothies to just keep everything moving along, keep everything clean. Fiber is a great way to do gentle detox every day. And so I love the concept of having principles that we integrate every single day that easily keep us healthy on a regular basis. I don't like this concept of, doing really intensive cleanses and just kind of not watching things throughout the year. I like to keep on top of things as I go. So I will also mix various veggies and fruits in my smoothies. So sometimes I'll put things like romaine lettuce or cucumber or celery, spinach. I love putting berries and apple in my smoothies. A lot of times I'll use warming roots like ginger or turmeric, sometimes different spices, things like cinnamon, cardamom. I change things up for flavor. I do put maca in my shakes for just a little bit of adrenal love first thing in the morning. sometimes various plant milks, sometimes water as the base. So definitely getting creative with what's in the fridge, but I like that smoothies are a very easy way to sneak in all kinds of nutrition. Like sometimes I'll put an avocado in there, definitely all kinds of healthy essential fatty acids. I rotate between flax oils and fish oils. It's very easy to hide things in the blender and make them taste very good. I am a chocolate addict, and so I will put raw cacao powder, I put cacao nibs in there, I'll put raw nuts and seeds and grind those up, or nut butters at different times, or protein powder. So you can get very creative with smoothies, and there's a lot of great recipes out there for different kinds of shakes, but that's usually part of my breakfast. I often will do eggs, I do various fruits, lots of berries, again, lots of strawberries and blueberries and blackberries. I do drink coffee. I make sure that I use organic coffee. Small batch is nice. I try to cut myself off at 2 cups of coffee per day. I am definitely a caffeine addict. Those who know me know caffeine is definitely one of my vices, but you know, coffee also is very rich in antioxidants, and it helps clean out the liver. And so I often will drink it black. Every once in a while, I will put a splash of oat milk in it as well. That's the other way that I like to drink my coffee. So that's breakfast for me, and then lunch is usually some version of a salad or cooked veggies with sometimes just vegetables with nuts and seeds, healthy fats like olive oil and avocado. I will sometimes add chicken or fish, just kind of depend, or eggs. It depends on what's happening in a given day. And then dinner is usually some kind of hot cooked vegetables, and again, for myself, some kind of protein, oftentimes fish or chicken rotated out, sometimes red meat. I do like red meat, and I feel like I do well on it if I use grass-fed. I use smaller amounts. I mean, this is definitely the thing. When I am eating a dinner plate, you know, it's a portion of protein that's about the size of my fist, and then, you know, 75% of my plate is covered in veggies. So that is how I eat, and then I do snack in between, again, on lots of nuts and seeds. Sometimes I'll have some of the healthy bars. I try not to have too many bars just because, you know, it's still processed food. So trying to have healthy, fresh, vital foods as much as possible that are non-processed. So that's what I do in terms of diet. The other area that I touched on earlier when I was talking about exercise, but I think it's really forefront to taking good care of ourselves, is making sure that we have daily joy practices. So some of the things that I do to keep my spirits lifted, I love flowers, so I buy myself fresh flowers often. Anything that feels like art, beauty, that is all very inspiring to me and very uplifting to me. So whether it's going to a museum, whether it is seeing a film that is just very artistic and creative, you know, sometimes during the daily grind, we don't have as much time to sneak away to events, but then trying to keep little things around that are very beautiful, even if it's a textile, even if it's a colored napkin or a fabric. Beauty and art really are ways of bringing joy into my own life. And so for you guys, just figuring out, what are your daily joy practices? What are your rituals? What are the things that light your heart up? Really an excellent way of taking good care of our hearts, keeping our spirits up. When we keep our mood up, we definitely keep our immune system strong and healthy. And so thinking about what those things are for you. Connection's another big one. So for me, you know, I do quite a bit of commuting, and so during that time I will often call dear friends. I love the Marco Polo app. Some of you guys may have seen it. It's a way of sending video messages to your friends, and so really just staying heart connected with my close humans, sharing a lot, whether it's good news or bad news, but just really not isolating. I feel like it's really easy to do in our culture of work to isolate. And so making sure that I feel loved and that I remember that I'm not in it alone and that I have good friends with me everywhere. That is definitely part of my healthcare practice. So then moving on to things like supplements. This is the burning question that some of you guys want to know. What do I do in terms of my daily grind? I switch it up. I switch it up a lot, depending on what's going on. I usually will do something to take care of my adrenals. Like I had mentioned earlier, I tend to use maca quite a bit in my shakes, but I will also rotate with things like rhodiola. I like eleuthero quite a bit. Sometimes I'll use licorice if I'm feeling really bottomed out. So some kind of adrenal booster. I love SAMe. It is a great mood enhancer. It's really great for our joints, and it really supports liver detox. So that's one that I tuck into my morning routine. And then it depends on if it's a work day for me or if it's a day off, but I like to use a lot of aminos, things that keep my brain focused, sharp, and also calm. And I love that a lot of the aminos also participate in various detox processes in the body. So I'm like, great, let's keep the brain healthy, keep the mood good, keep the focus right on, and also work on taking good care of the liver and cleaning things out. And so I use quite a bit of glycine and taurine. I like NAC quite a bit in my amino routine. I use quite a bit of inositol. I will use inositol as a powder. I'll put it in some hot water or some tea. What else do I do? Let's see, I put my whole stash here so I could think about things for you guys. Yeah, so in terms of aminos, that's pretty much, so I use MSM also, and this is a great one for liver detox. It's also a great one for joints and hair, skin. I will do a multi, mostly daily. I try to remember everything, get my multi in, and then I do like to focus on connective tissue health. I feel like it's a great anti-aging strategy and just a way to look good on the outside, but also keep things feeling good on the inside. So I like to take vitamin C because it's a precursor to collagen synthesis. There are minerals in my multivitamin, zinc and copper, that help with collagen production. I often will take collagen separately as well in tea or coffee, or put it in my morning shake, a couple scoops of collagen powder, and the MSM that I had mentioned there. And then the other thing I like to do is focus on antioxidants, because antioxidants are also a great way to slow down the aging process and protect our cells, prevent cancers. And so I usually take some alpha lipoic acid. I take CoQ10 on a pretty regular basis, along with PQQ. And then I just popped in a good macula formula. I'm over 40, so keeping the eyes nice and healthy. So lutein, zeaxanthine, astaxanthin. Yeah, I will also take a little bit of iron. I don't always eat enough red meat, and so my iron can dip down. There are other ways without eating red meat to keep your iron and ferritin up as well, lentils and spinach and things like that. But a lot of us ladies, in terms of how much blood we lose during the month and what we're taking in, we just got to keep those ratios balanced. And so I do take extra iron. And what else? And then I do take a lot of theanine and GABA. During the day I take more theanine, and if I'm having a particularly anxious day, I could take GABA, and then to help sleep, I'll take theanine and GABA, and then I will also often take more glycine at night. So that's what I do in terms of my supplements. I also do take essential fatty acids, so in my smoothie, like we talked about earlier, and then sometimes I'll rotate fish oil gels. So that's what I do in terms of my smoothie. But as I said, and my supplement regimen, things do change from time to time depending on what's going on for me. And the other area that I would say that I also do spend quite a bit of time focusing on in my own life is really making sure that I address my feelings, mental health. I've spent a lot of time over the last 20 years working with therapists of different kinds, because I feel like the more I've gotten to know myself, focus on where my triggers are, what my personal sensitivities are, the more I've been able to stay on track with taking better care of myself, the more I've been able to become more compassionate with myself and therefore more compassionate with others. I feel like, when we're doing better, when we're more lit up, we're in a place where we can really help others much more as well. And so we all have different patterns and we all have different struggles. For me, one of my struggles has been making sure I take good enough care to take good care of myself as well. It's been easier for me to focus on others and not as much on my own good self-care. And so having partners in the mental health realm to keep me accountable to myself and good healthcare practices, including things like regular play, including things like not overworking. Overwork has been a big one for me. And so I have actually spent time over the last couple years and more just really cutting back on how much I work and really being mindful to make sure that things stay really balanced. And I'm getting, like I said, enough sleep and enough daily movement and enough play, including things like silly things and silly time with friends, and also things that just, light my soul up. Everything from longer vacations to short little trips with friends and local play. So those are the things that I have figured out in terms of taking wonderful care of myself. I invite each and every one of you to chime in on what some of your best healthcare practices are, whether it's writing in journals, whether it's writing creative songs, your actual biochemical things that you do to take good care of your body. Contribute, teach one another what you do, and let's just keep doing that much better together as a community. Thank you everyone so much for being here with us on a regular basis. We're growing. We're at 45,000 now. It's so exciting to just see more and more of us showing up to learn together. Thank you so much for being here. Dr. Patti and I love you all, and we'll be back here next week again together. Thank you.